as entrepreneurs and you're helping to coach people, as we dig deeper into this, is there ways in which you think that they should be? How do you look at AI? Do you look at it as a cost saver or as a enhancer? People kind of, and I'm not
Hmm.
saying that I don't believe correctly. There's a much more eloquent way to say that, but basically, some people are saying it's going to reduce the labor force. We're going to be able to be super productive, be able to drop people off the payroll, or we can utilize it in the other way, which is it to expand what were our offerings. How do
Yeah.
you see that? Is there a combination of the both, or how do you see it kind of playing out over the next, let's call it 12 to 24 months?
The way that I've started thinking about this, and I keep threatening to write a paper or do a podcast dedicated to this, but I've come up with the idea of AAA. It's easy to remember, right? It's three A's, one word each. First A is augment, augmentation. Second word is automate, automation. Third word is accelerate, acceleration. And I view these as three levels through which people can go up and down and organizations can go up and down as they start to use artificial intelligence. The augmentation is where most organizations and individuals are right now. We are augmenting the work that we are doing with AI. We are becoming more efficient at it. We're just becoming power users, right? The second level is automation, when we take the work from a human and we give it to an agent or we give it to an AI system, and it can be done automatically in an automated fashion. Almost no one is doing that yet. That is the true promise of 2025 and the agentic AI that everyone keeps talking about. I think we're going to start to see real applications of that come out. It's there right now, but we're still in that homebrew computer club phase where you got to understand how to wire up the monitor and, pull all the levers and make all this stuff happen. The no code or low code options that are out there for putting agentic AI workflows together, they're not quite there yet, but they will be. So that's level 2. Level 3 is acceleration. That is where I view organizations and individuals as being able to do something totally novel, create new products, new services, do with AI things that were either not possible before or not conceived of before. So those are the three tiers that I view AI through, or the lens that I view AI through right now. And again, we're just barely kind of scratching through the surface on level 1 with augmentation.
Great tips. I love that. I think but other thing that I would tell people to do is you don't have to wait. Like you're in the augmentation phase right now and you want to move to automation. Don't wait. You think this is going to come in some sort of like blinding flash of brilliance that, just start doing something. I encourage people like, okay, pick something, even if it's not maybe a bottleneck thing for you, but let's just say it's something that's an annoyance and says, how could I automate this? Just to start to train yourself to think differently, to be able to see things in a different way. And I think that that's really going to be critical because I think people are not prepared for that and they're not, they don't even know how to take that step. So start doing and start putting some money into R&D. I say this, I have a staffing company and I say, what is your HR R&D budget? People kind of look at me like, what are you crazy? What do we don't have an HR R&D budget? I'm like, no, but I'm like, can you think about, when we're working from home, that's kind of a new innovation in working. Well, we should study this. Is it going to work? That's really, COVID was like a huge like experiment for many
Yeah.
of us when sending us home. We found out we could still be productive. Okay, but where did it start to break? Well, we found out while we could be productive in the moment, we were probably losing something over a period of time because we didn't have the training, we didn't have the development that we really needed to, because people weren't being as intentional, whether it was the organizations or individuals, they weren't being as intentional as they could be. So I think while we were productive in the moment, we lost future productivity because we weren't intentional in the training and the development of the next level of skills that we needed to bring on for our people. So I've seen that, which is one of the reasons we've gone to like a hybrid model for our overseas staff where they come in 2 days a week into the organization to make sure that we have some of that, and then still doing intentional things remotely to make sure that we're training and developing and spending some time with them. But I think that's going to be ultra critical for us to be able to just to test this stuff and to really dig in. Think about that. Who do you have on your team who's excited about this, who can
Hmm.
lead the charge for you? Maybe it's not you as as the head of the organization, but if you have somebody who is out there, there's probably somebody in your organization who's excited about this. But if not, find somebody to partner with and do a small automation.
I couldn't agree more. And I also would be remiss if I didn't go back and call out the HR department that you just surfaced a minute ago. I spoke to the Pennsylvania Society for Human Resource Management, I don't know, a year and a half ago at their annual conference. I did a keynote there. And one of the things I encouraged them to think about was that HR, if not leading the charge, should have a primary seat at the table when we're talking about AI. One of the things, and my technological and technologist friends always push back on me about this next statement, I constantly say, IT should not be in charge of AI. There's an absolute role there, and you can't get to where you want to go without IT, but they are not the ones that need to be leading this charge because this is about the way work gets done. And right now, and for the foreseeable future, humans are going to have an incredibly important role in developing how this technology works. And who is in charge of humans other than the direct supervisors in an organization? HR. So the role of HR, I think, is going to need to change significantly. And any HR execs that are out there, you need to be putting on your AI first hat right now and really thinking hard about what this means for your organization.
So let's dig in there because I think that's a very valuable point. When you're saying, hey, you need to put AI first hat on, does
Mhm.
that in the way that we do the work, we changing the processes, or in the way that we're helping our people to understand AI and or all of the above? Like how would you, like, if you were taking over HR, what are some of the top like three things that they should be looking at as putting their AI hat on? Because I think most people don't think about that. Obviously, HR for many companies is kind of, get employees in, we want to do the work, but we're also trying to reduce our risk.
Yeah.
We don't get us sued, right?
Yeah.
And trying to push forward in a very innovative way is never something that I thought HR, at least in most companies, was very good at. And
Yeah.
now we're going to be pushing them even further when they could have been doing innovation before and they haven't been because many times they're risk adverse and by doing what they've always done, they reduce the risks for themselves personally. I
Hmm.
think we might have to change the incentives inside of the organization
Yes.
to really to change the department as a whole. So I'm not sure whether we start with in HR or we start with the C-suite to be able to change the incentives so that people can make those changes. Any thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
So what you're talking about here predates the AI conversation, and it's really important for organizations and leaders to understand this. Most leaders and most organizations and mid-sized companies, until you get to a certain point, they don't view HR as providing strategic value for the company, right? They view HR through the recruiting lens, they view it through the compliance lens, but they almost never, until you get to a certain point in time in size and maturity of an organization, view it through the lens of it needs to have a strategic seat at the leadership table to drive value for the organization. And that's ultimately where we're talking about. Yes, there's always a role for recruiting. Yes, there's always a role for compliance. But, and this is a big but, if that's where you're leaving HR, then you're missing the boat with your organization, whether we're talking about AI or not. So let's shift back into kind of the AI focus here. I think if you are in a mid-sized organization and you're grappling with outgrowing the original recruitment compliance function of HR and you really want to start to expand that, then it's time to start looking at a chief people officer or a CHRO that can drive the continual learning that we've been talking about in this conversation, the education and the training through the organization, and start to create and help backstop the departments and the supervisors in terms of developing the mentality that this is a constantly growing dynamic organization where you're going to be allowed to take some risks, right? We're going to tolerate certain types of failures because that's something also that a lot of organizations don't do well. They don't tolerate risk well. They don't tolerate failures well. They don't inculcate and encourage a culture of experimentation. Those are things that that HR can do when we're talking about figuring out AI, because one of the things we haven't talked about with AI is you can buy all kinds of great AI tools and systems out there right now. Relatively few of them come with established use cases that are going to drive immediate value for your organization. So what's that mean? what that means is that it's got to come from the bottom up, and your people have got to figure out how to use these new tools to do different things, to augment their workflows, to automate their workflows, to accelerate the organization. And that, again, is where HR can come in to help drive that